When a person realizes the mind of non-discrimination, that attainment is the state of regarding each being as one's only child. This is none other than Buddha nature. We will awaken to it on reaching the land of peace. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Good morning, everyone. Well, I am always so impressed with how many people still come out to the summer services. And even though today is a little hot or a little on the warmer side, I am so happy to see all of you here today. Today's quote comes from Shinran Shonin's Hymns of the Pure Land. And I really enjoy these particular writings because, number one, these hymns were actually meant, or wasan as they were called, these wasan were actually made for the folks of Japan or the common people, not learned monks or scholarly priests. He wrote them in Japanese so the average person in Japan could understand. And we can also see too that in this particular example, he relates the attainment of non-discrimination or this idea of full-on Buddha nature as when we regard each being as our very own child, which should say how precious this particular state of attainment is. I don't have children yet, and it's hard for me to relate to this example from a parent's point of view. But as a child's point of view, I could actually really think about my parents. Both of my parents are very different people. My mother is she's very talkative. She likes making conversation. She likes being the center of attention and the hostess with the mostess of the party. My father is a very, he's your typical sansei Japanese American man. So for the sansei in the congregation, you probably understand that. But he doesn't talk all that much. He's a man of few words. He loves to work in the garden, and he actually is. When I was growing up, he wasn't very verbally affectionate to me, right? I don't remember hearing my father ever say the words "I love you," right? Like that's something I don't typically hear from Japan. Maybe now these days they'll say it more, but. Yes, my father never said I love you, but he showed it in very, very different ways. My mother had no problem saying I love you. And she always made me and my brother feel special. She still is a wonderful mother. She talks to me about, her daily life most of the time and sometimes the struggles that she goes through. My father, typically asks me about plans or how things are going. But ultimately, I can feel the care and the love that they have for me. Even though they are two very different people, their love for each other is still very strong, and I can still feel their love towards me. I think that the love that a parent has for a child is almost indescribable. There are so many life struggles and lessons that parents have to go through with their children. It's very stressful, actually. I went through a lot of stress growing up probably, and my parents equally in turn had to go through a lot of stress. I mentioned before that my father wasn't the typical father where he said, oh, I love you every night, or he never kissed me on the cheek or anything like that. But one thing he did to show his love was he ensured that my homework was always done. What do I mean by this? He sat with me and had me read my English assignments. He had me read if I had to read a chapter in an English book, he would make me read it to him. He would sit with me, a man as patient as he is. And if I didn't understand a word, he had the Webster's dictionary right next to me. And if I came across a word that I looked like I had trouble reading, he would say, "What does that word mean?" "I don't know." "Look it up." And he'd bring the book out, open it up, and then he'd have me find it. And then we'd actually discuss what that word meant. Now, of course, being a teenage or, a younger elementary school, and then of course, me going into my teenage days, this got very tiring. But my SAT scores weren't actually that bad. And as much as in the moment, I thought to myself, I hate this. This is so frustrating. Why does he make me do this all the time? And I would complain. I wasn't a patient child. I'm not patient now. Reverend Cindy will tell you that my patience still needs a lot of work. Yet my father's patience was unnatural. He still sat with me. No matter how much I complained, how much I whined, he would still sit with me night after night, making me read my English assignments, making me look words up in the dictionary. It was I thought to myself, I could be playing video games. I could be out playing with my friends. I could be doing something else. And yet my father still sat with me day after day and made me read my English assignments. What did my mother do? My mother taught me the importance of networking. My mother taught me how to navigate the political sphere of the capital. My mother told me, taught me whose hands I was supposed to shake. My mother was a lobbyist at the Capitol for a long time. And she always said, remember people's names. She always taught me, remember to shake hands and smile and look like and of course, look, like you're ready to talk. But my mother also taught me the importance of doing things for other people, the importance of sacrificing a little bit of your personal time to spend with other people and to, in fact, help other people. What an important lesson this is. The other thing that my parents did for me, and I mean this in the best possible way, but they didn't do the typical Asian American thing where they told me I had to get a high-paying job or earn lots of money, become an engineer, become a doctor. And again, not to say that these professions aren't worthy professions and you shouldn't go for them, right? In fact, my parents were very supportive of me becoming a minister. But one of the things that they didn't do when I was a young kid was they didn't try to squash the exuberant and energetic nature of me. I was very energetic. I was very wild. I wanted to run around all the time. I was quoting lines from cartoons I had seen constantly. And they didn't realize we have to, squash this out of him. They realized he needs an outlet. So they signed me up for acting classes instead. And they had me, I did 11 years of acting and musical theater. I could probably still do some Shakespeare monologues for you later if you'd like to listen to that. But the important thing was that my parents, didn't try to force me to be what their typical image of what they thought was the perfect me was. My parents' love for me was genuine in that they wanted me to be the best self I could be. Yes, it's very true. If I brought a C home, they were not happy about it. If I brought a B+ home, they congratulated me, but then asked, what can you do to get an A, right? It was this constant strive of asking me and getting me to do better, to build on myself, to work on myself. That made me realize that if I am in any way a decent person today, it's due to their efforts. And of course, the efforts of others who had an influence on me when I was a child. And I realize also as well, this comes from a very privileged standpoint. I was privileged that I lived in a, upper middle class neighborhood. I was privileged that I had two parents to rely upon to teach me different lessons in life. I was privileged that I had a sibling. I had to learn how to share. All of these things are privileges that I should not take for granted. The person when a person realizes the mind of non-discrimination, that attainment is the state of regarding each being as one's only child. For the parents in the audience, your children are your only children. Yes, you may like or enjoy other children, but the love and the dedication that my parents had for me is not one that I experienced from any other adult. And in that, I am also privileged. How privileged are we now that we are able to come here to this day, and that all this work and dedication was put to write down these sacred scriptures for us to listen to. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into handing down these teachings. Shakyamuni Buddha didn't stay in one place at one time just to, teach and say, people have to come to me. Shakyamuni Buddha also traveled to give his teachings. Shinran Shonin traveled all throughout Japan. Part of it was due to his banishment, but he still was able to spread the Nembutsu teaching. Amida Buddha, Bodhisattva Dharmakara, traversed 10 kalpas through time and space to create the Pure Land where all beings are accepted, where everyone is accepted. For us, Amida Buddha, for all of us, we are his children. Amida Buddha's wisdom and compassion touches all of us as if we are their only child. It is important that we remember that the Dharma is here purely for our benefit. The Dharma is here to guide us in our daily lives. But part of that, I think, also comes from the lessons that we receive as people when we are growing up, from parents, from uncles, from aunts. But especially if there is that one adult who treats you as their only child, who puts constant care and attention and quite frankly, I believe, unconditional love. This is something I believe that we can all relate to. We have experienced parents, or at least parental figures who have done this for us. I think it's also in our nature to care, to actually give, and to show compassion. This is something that I also believe that is Buddha nature. Of course, this isn't to say that I have all this Buddha nature within me, but that I believe that I am influenced by the Buddha nature that is shown to me throughout my time growing up. All of these lessons that I've learned from my parents are important ones. And I continue to learn from the congregation members here on a daily basis. But if there's one thing I want us all to take away from today's Dharma talk, is that all beings on this planet, all sentient beings, are the children of the Buddha. We are here. We are able to learn. We are able to receive the teachings because Shakyamuni Buddha was compassionate and wise enough to share them with all of us. This is how the Buddha's teachings ring to me. This is how they come to me. And they sometimes come in the lessons of our parents, the lessons I remember growing up, things that will forever leave an everlasting impression on me. So I would like to thank you all for coming to today's Dharma service, the final service of August. Next month, we will enter into a new, Dharma school year, and I look forward to seeing you all. September is going to be a very busy month, but I am certain that all of us are very much looking forward to taking part in all the activities. Thank you all for coming today, and will you, in closing, please join me in Dasha. When a person realizes the mind of non-discrimination, that attainment is the state of regarding each being as one's only child. This is none other than the Buddha nature. We will awaken to it on reaching the land of peace. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.